I hope to get as much out of this podcast as anyone else.
Because there's a part of me that wants to go, I don't think I'm someone that's that reliant on external validation. And yet my love language is words of
Me
affirmation.
too. So is mine.
So there is definitely more beneath it. I think it's my independence and pride, ego, more than pride, I think, that wants to go, no, I don't need external validation, because I don't think I chase it. But if it were to dry up, maybe it's because, do you know what, Steph?
What?
Don't tell anyone this.
I won't.
But I sometimes think, I sometimes think that it's such a privilege, isn't it, sometimes doing this work, and you get to do work where at least a couple of times a week, someone sends you a message to say how much your work and what you're doing matters.
Yeah.
And so I can say, I don't need external validation because I'm not out there chasing it. But I am
Totally.
in the privileged position. Whenever I sit down and do any gratitude practice, one of the first things that always comes up is being able to do work that I find so purposeful and so fulfilling and be recognized for it, which is different to, which I think how this topic first came up. What are you laughing at?
I don't know. It's just such a part about the recognition. And you're like,
No, which I was going to say, it was going to be a new part, which
okay.
is different to the sense of always needing validation, but not being able to actually receive it or hold on to it when you get it.
Okay.
That experience that I've heard people talk about, where it offers the briefest reassurance,
Yes.
but it's impermanent. It can't be held on to. I wouldn't say that I have that.
Then
Go
we
on.
need to talk, because I came up with this episode idea because I need help with it, because I am in a humbled position of feeling like there's a lot of places I don't need external validation. But the places where I do. And I think I've covered it up with this work. I think that I have found a place where I'm like, okay, I have a podcast, I have an Instagram account, I have one-to-one clients, and I have good relationships with all these things. And they bring me this steady dose of being like, you're helping me. You're good at what you do. I love the way you wrote that.
Mhm.
And then the podcast ended at the same time as Instagram. I'm not even going to talk about it, but me and Instagram, I don't know how to do it anymore. I don't know how to do the out there. And my accounts just stopped. And I felt like I went through this little bit of a crisis around, I'm about to lose, even though it didn't happen, but I'm predicting, like, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose everything. And the thought of that was like, then I got nothing. My worth is in question. Who am I? Do I really matter? All of this time, I thought that I was building something that was so strong and sustainable and would just transcend the absence of it. And what I'm finding is that I need to be reminded every day that that is still true. Am I still a good writer? Am I still saying things that are worth thinking about? Am I still in touch? Am I still valuable? I need it every day. Every day to be affirmed that it hasn't gone away. I don't trust the permanence of it. And I will also say that some of self-worth comes from a steady dose of self-esteem built over time. I think that there is something I can take from what I've done that is not going anywhere, that helps me understand who I am in a way that I don't really question. But on the surface, it feels like it doesn't matter what happened before, and that it's the fact that it might be gone tomorrow. Wow, I really depend on. I really need that. And I'm like, oh no.
Well, there's a few threads of this. One, I think that when this is your work and your sense of purpose, like it's a vocation more than just work, for that to go away is a massive hit to identity, not to mention just general fear around how you make a living and survival and all of that. So there's a piece of that that I think is very just here and now appropriate. And there's all these things that are outside of control as well, like Instagram and, a podcast co-host, all of that type of thing that's just, like, you can't control those things. So when I put myself in your shoes and I think, okay, if I was in that position and I was thinking, okay, all my sources of work are going to dry up, no one's engaging, no one seems to be interested, and everything shuts down, there is going to be a bucket load of fear about what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of me, it's only a part of me, it's not 100% of me. There's a part of me that holds this blind faith that would go, well, that's what needed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because something would emerge in its place. So my first thought for you is if all your work dried up, part of me's going, well, maybe she'll write that book.
I know.
So top fear, what's the top fear here? That it's going to dry up. Is that it? The event fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what?
And then I have no mirror. I have no one to talk to. I have to go be an OT again.
Okay. And then what?
And then I'm sad and unfulfilled and living a life I'm not aligned with.
Mm-hmm. So there's a fear of, if you like, when you said living a life you're not aligned with, I heard self-abandonment. Like if this all goes away, if this all abandons me, I'll have to abandon myself. I can't stay on my own.
Yeah, but it comes directly to I won't have a choice and I'm being controlled by something. And that's really what this fear is, because that's what
Mm-hmm.
comes up time and time again, is that there's something outside of my control that I don't have a say in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm helpless here. And the helplessness is where I get dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I go write Substack essays. And I literally do. And then I feel better.
Oh my goodness, like you write so much anyway. Just sling it in a book. Just sling it in a book.
But this isn't about me. Let's talk about also you. And tell me how you don't need it.
But I think I do. This is just it. I'm not saying that I don't. But then, like the question at the beginning, when is it the sort of a sense of healthy acknowledgement? Because let's face it, if you're putting your heart and soul into something that you're trying to put out to other people and you're getting nothing back, there's a disconnect there, right?
Yeah.
That isn't about, oh, it's because I need external validation. But there is an element of you put something out, like there needs to be some kind of reciprocity in acknowledgement, in knowing that what you're putting out there matters.
Yeah.
The part, I guess, is that I don't personalize it. And because I do believe in some kind of organizing higher power, every time I talk about it, I get the ick a bit because my analytical brain goes like, well, no.
Okay.
And I of course I have times when I doubt it. So it's not that I 100% all the time believe in that.
Okay.
But I would say that is more consistently me. The part that goes, I get a gut feeling and I go for it. So part of what has been going on for me since deciding to stop recording the Life After Diets podcast is I thought, oh, you're doing that pattern. You're doing that thing that you do, and you've done it quite a few times before. I do this thing where I leap before the ground appears. And I did that when I left London and I was just like wandering around the planet trying to figure out where I'm supposed to be. I did it when I left the police to become a police officer. I felt like I did it when I was writing. When I sat down to write my book, I didn't even write a plan or a framework for it. Like I just jumped and started writing. And I don't think I'm a writer. That's the weird thing. I still don't see myself as a writer because it doesn't feel like, it just doesn't feel like who I am. But that leaping, and that gave me a bit of reassurance because I thought, it's okay, Sarah, this is what you do. And every time you've done it, you've landed on not just firm ground, but like enriched ground. That whole phrase, fortune favors the brave. I think there's something about being willing to take that step, and like the Indiana Jones, where you take
Temple
the
of
step
Doom.
with yeah, exactly. There's this story weaves throughout humanity and how people create things and do things is that leap. So there's something in the reminder of that. I'm not completely reckless though. I'm not going to do something when I have zero backup plan at all. I mean, my backup plan is, okay, I've done this leap because I really, really believe that in my gut that life is calling me to get out there and do more face-to-face stuff with people, to be in person, in human contact with people. Now, I would like that to be in alignment with my work and part of how I make my living. But I thought, do you know what? If it gets a couple of months' time and I haven't figured out how to get people together in person, I'll go and volunteer somewhere. I'll go volunteer at a hospice or something like that. So I will make it the right decision. I will make it matter, and I will make it mean that there is a positive impact that I stopped recording the podcast. I have to, because the alternative would just be too distressing. To go, I left this podcast for what? Nothing.
So in that case, validation is linked to trust. You don't need it because you trust something bigger than somebody reaffirming to you that you've made the right choice, or that you'll find what you trust that you find what you'll need.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's kind of moved away from validation, hasn't it? And I can see you desperately trying to pull it together.
Trying to be like,
Bless
wait,
your
no, but
heart.
it did. It came from the trust element. Because you were saying you don't seek it because you trust something bigger.
Yeah, so the landscape, as you know, of our work has changed a lot since, I think, GLP-1s has
Yeah.
made, has just changed things. That's just part of it too. There seems to be something else changing in the wind as well, where other people I know who have online communities and businesses find that people are not showing up to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, you could put on an online event. Do you
Yeah.
remember the first online event we did for the podcast before we had the community? We'd only started the podcast a couple of months, and I think we had like 50 people turn up or something
I
like that.
remember it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, we did it the January after we started the podcast. We just set up an Eventbrite event, and people came along.
Oh.
I don't even remember.
We did?
Yeah, we did. We really did. It was just a Q&A, like meet us kind of Q&A type thing we did. And people used to do webinars and things like that, and people would go along to free webinars. I've got a friend who's got a membership, and she offers these weekly calls. People just don't come to them anymore.
Yeah, the culture is changing for sure.
Yes.
I think that we're in a state of change.
Yes. So now there is a part of me where, because I used to have, at one point I had 5 therapy groups running. I now have 3. So the numbers have reduced in the therapy groups. And there was a part of me when that was happening that it was so brief, though. There was a flicker of, oh, is it me?
Sure. Yes,
and then
of course.
the protective voice comes in and goes, no, that can't.
Oh,
that
see,
can't
I
be
would
it."
be the first one to be like, yes, you must investigate that first. I don't know how you don't do that, but
So, do you
it's
remember?
ridiculous.
Well, do you remember when I told you about when I went to the Rupert Spur event with Helen? After we went, at the end of it, I said, oh, thank you so much for inviting me along to this. She said, I never invited
Oh,
you.
yeah.
You invited yourself. And I just thought, well, I'm sure she's pleased I came. There's a similar one recently where I've met this woman that I met in Washington. And I've been around her house, and we had like we had a wonderful time. We had a really lovely time together, and like just so much like gratitude and appreciation for each other afterwards. And then we rearranged. She cancelled on the day, asked me for some dates. I've given her some dates, and like a week has gone by and I haven't heard anything. And I know she has ADHD, and I just put it down to disorganization, because it doesn't occur to me that, I mean, why wouldn't
someone want to hang out
she
with me?
want to hang out with me? And talking about this with my friend of mine who just does not get this at all, because she's just like, I would totally take it personally. This is how projection works. Because I want to hang out with most people, I assume most people want to hang out with me.
So link this to validation, because it is related.
Yeah. Well, I think it's how projection works, right? So if we're projecting something about ourselves, let's say, but it's a negative that we don't like, that we're not good enough or we're deficient in some way. So that's how we're feeling about ourselves. The validation just gives you a bit of, it's like you're starving. It just gives you a bit of food, right? It gives you a bit of food, but it's not enough energy. It's just, no, this is not working.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's not, the analogy is not working. Link it to validation. Maybe there's something about a locus of control. Have you heard that phrase?
Of course.
Oh, I just haven't heard it for a long time. I didn't even know it was.
Oh, it's like an
still a thing.
OG psychology 101,
Isn't
like
it
in
just?
college.
Yeah. Well, you want to tell the listeners what it is?
Well, it's like your perceived sense of where control comes from. Does it come from inside of you or outside of you? And if you have an internal locus of control, you have a fundamental belief that you guide yourself and that you guide your outcomes. But okay, go ahead. Keep linking.
Keep blinking. Was I
Linking.
a lot?
Keep
Oh,
linking.
linking. I don't, because you were blinking as you said it. You were like, I thought you were going, keep blinking. I was like, sorry, I didn't notice I was doing that. Sorry. Because the locus of control needs a solid self.
Yeah.
So there are areas of my life where I feel like myself is very solid, and areas where it might not feel as solid. So when it
Yes.
comes to connecting with people, one of the
Yeah,
reasons
yeah,
why
yeah.
I think, out of all the people who might get out there and try and make it happen, I'm going to be the kind of person who's going to go out there and do that. So when it comes to connecting with others, I have quite a solid sense of self. And if we're talking about external validation, that's about with others, isn't it?
Yeah. This comes down to then, I think, validation is linked to the concept of self and having one,
Mhm.
for having like a strong one or not. I think that is linked to early attachment and mirroring. So I think validation is linked to, and I think maybe why you're one way and I'm another way is not only linked to this. I think we're also potentially born differently. There's just different temperaments and things. But if you have been mirrored, you have been validated. And where that's a very young, that's what we need very, very, very young before we, pre-verbal, right? We need to know that when we smile and somebody smiles back at us, that we are here, or that that the world makes sense and we have some connection to it. And that's not logic. You can't conceptualize that as an infant, but this is how early that is. And this is how ingrained that becomes. And I think that those of us, I won't say that anybody who has weaker connections of that are probably more likely to need more of this validation more frequently. And I know that I am one of those. I did not have that mirroring so much. And I seek and I seek and I seek. And I think I have taught myself how to fill in the gaps. I think I've done a good job, like especially the past 6 years, of trying to understand how I can offer that to myself and where else I can find it, where my resources are. But when one of those resources starts to dry up, I'm like, oh, there's still a gap. There's still a gap. And this is where I'm like, oh, I got to dig deeper. I have to go deeper. I have to be able to figure out a way to find a mirror, to find something where the world makes sense, even if that is something larger than me, which is I've had resistance at that religious thing, but I'm not resistant to spirituality. And I think logically, I'm like, yeah, I'm on board with all of that, but I've not had to feel it. I've not had to go there. I've not had to really place trust in that. And I think that's potentially the only other way, like for me, because Mike gives me tons of it, right? But it isn't enough. It's not done the job. I think it's helped a lot and I think it's given me like foundations, but it's like I need it every day. I need it every day anyway, which means that either I need to find it in something bigger than me, or if you fundamentally don't have that as a child, you're screwed.
Let's go with option A, shall we? I wonder if those can be, because you talk about sort of plugging the gaps. I wonder if it's possible for those to actually be permanently filled in with something that becomes more solid. Even the playing field, let me tell you somewhere where it's coming to mind where I would put this in where I need external validation. The word might not quite fit, but I think it does in principle. If I am ill or in pain, I want people to see that and I don't like saying this because there's a part of me that just thinks it's absolutely ick because this is, I think, such an old, young part of me. But like, I want sympathy.
Oh, that's so funny that you feel icky.
Yeah, I do. Because like,
it's okay.
it really does. Like, I want, it feels like caring. It feels like being loved. And I need that so desperately when my body is hurting or unwell or something like that. And I have a really strange relationship, I think, with health anyway. Because I was doing some journaling about this. I was digging into it a bit. I'd watched this video and I'd written down some of these journaling questions about what are the beliefs I have about my health? What are the stories that I tell myself about health and all these kinds of things? And when I really allowed myself to go to the young parts of me, because when I was younger, I used to love being ill. And I used to often fake being ill when I was younger as well.
I did too.
And I could really remember doing that and that feeling of feeling so like nurtured and cared for. And I don't think that it was really absent when I wasn't ill either. It's not like I felt like I was neglected or ignored when I wasn't well. But there was something about both parents did it and my grandmother. Like there was this whole, what do you want for dinner? We'll cook your favorite. Let's go. Like, what do you want to watch? And like that, the swaddling and the nurturing and all of that. And so now I could be in a real pity party about, back pain's the thing that's driving me up the wall at the moment. And someone gives me a couple of words of kindness or sympathy. And I'm just like, I feel so much better. But again, very temporary. It doesn't last.
Right.
So it feels like the same process as what you're talking about here, but just showing up in that area.
What would you need for that to feel more solid and like it would last in that situation?
See, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Came for the chat, stayed for the honesty. And yeah, I don't know.
That's why sometimes I think, oh, well, okay, maybe there's not a fix. Maybe this is, I think, even podcasting, it's like this idea that like, well, we'll tell you the answers. We'll give you And it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe that's how we have to be. Like maybe that'll be a struggle. Like
Muck it up.
well,
Suck it up.
suck it up and just like, okay, I abandon the pursuit of trying to fix myself. I mean, that's not abandoning it, but
Mhm.
it could be human condition. And it's more to me like, well, I could have never predicted that I would be needing to figure it out the way I'm needing to figure it out now, but I'm here and now. And now's the time that I'm supposed to be figuring it out. So I'll figure it out now, and maybe I won't figure it out, but the time is now. And maybe this is why we run up against the things we run up against at the times where we run up against them, because we're ready to be
Mhm.
like, well, what else is around here that I could do? And my answer is not going to be your answer, because we're different. And so I don't think there's this protocol. But that said, I do think that there's something about self that is relevant, but you have a strong sense of that. And so do I in certain ways,
No, kind of.
in certain ways. But I also have fear and doubt a lot. So I always feel like myself could be taken from me. But then it's like, well, that's maybe what that bigger thing is. I'm really kind of going with that. I think.
But this is actually clearing something up in my mind, because that whole, and I've spoken about this before, the whole throwing myself a pity party is trying to self-validate. That's what that's trying to do.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if I really, and I remember there was a podcast we recorded, I don't know what episode, somewhen, maybe one of our
You've abandoned your number.
one of our devoted listeners might tell us in the chat if they remember. But there was one where at the end of it, we were talking about my back pain, and it was something about giving myself permission to kind of have a wallow in it.
Yes.
And it felt, the relief I felt, it really shifted my mood, being able to have, and it was quite brief when I really went into it without any judgment. And here's the challenge. I think I slip into self-pity and I judge, so it doesn't get to perform the function it needs to.
Yeah. I'm good at.
What? The self...
No,
what?
I don't judge that stuff. I think the meta shame.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not playing.
No, sir.
Just sticking with regular shame.
Stick with the original version, eh?
Yeah.
That's really interesting to me to think about. Because I tell you what, when talking about what to do about it, I think it's just don't resist.
Don't resist the need for validation. That's going to lead us to question 3.
Yeah, not don't resist. I think for me, I'm thinking of more, if there's a part of me that is wanting that validation, and then the only way I can give it to myself is in pity. It's like, don't resist.
Yeah.
Just give yourself the pity and move on.
Yeah, I think we need to be 5-year-olds. I think this was the conversation we had. I was like, I just give myself permission to be a 5-year-old for a period of time. Whether it's at a temper tantrum or a pity party.
Yeah.
This is our original language and we need it back sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But then it can evolve to something different. But what is the difference between healthy acknowledgement and dependency on approval? Because I think we could stay in pity party, right? Like in that wallowing. And that becomes, I think, that's no fun for anyone. I think that there's a movement towards the healthy acknowledgement. Like, what is the difference? How do you know? What do you do if you're somebody who's like, I need constant validation and I keep trying to find it through lots of people pleasing or lots of, attention seeking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what do you think?
Well, I'm trying to think of people I know who would represent healthy, who need help. Because we all need some. And probably if you're somebody who needs none, that's something to look at.
Yeah, right.
Because that's potentially some denial in there. So healthy acknowledgement, I don't know, I'd be curious. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, what I was talking about before with my work, to expect to be putting something out into the world or doing anything creative with zero acknowledgement back, I think is unrealistic.
Yeah.
So we want to be seen and acknowledged for what we're doing. The unhealthy part, I think, is when you're trying to use the acknowledgement to plug a gap with something that can't plug the gap. Do you know what I mean? It's not. I'm trying to find the right language for it. Do you know what do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we all know. You don't have to say it.
It's trying to meet a need, or it's trying to resolve something. That's better. It's trying to resolve something it cannot resolve. So when we are dependent on
Yeah.
validation in order to give us our sense of self, it cannot do it.
Yeah. That's it.
It can't do it. So it doesn't perform the function. And the hungrier you become for the validation, because it's bottomless, it just keeps falling out the bottom, the more it actually just keeps feeding this story of deficit
Yes.
and not good enoughness. So actually,
Just
in
like
the long
binging.
run, yeah, it's like trying to solve a problem in the moment, but in the long run, it's perpetuating it.
Well, also it's the idea of abundance trying to feed a scarcity, and it's not feeding it. There's something meeting in the middle with it. Like, I'm thinking about this again, I'm thinking about a lot through the lens of stinking social media. But are you familiar with Substack?
Not at all.
So it's an essay-based platform, which is right up my alley. So now I write all these essays there. And I find I have like 300 something followers. And when 20 people like my essay, I'm so thrilled. I'm like thrilled. And I'm like, that's so funny because on Instagram, if 20 people like my post, I'm like, what? I might as well just throw it away, like, well, But all it takes is one person to be like, I read what you wrote and I loved it, or I really liked it, or it really made me think of something. And when one person writes to me and says that they've read something, I'm like, okay. And that's part of the validation that like, of that mirroring, of that like being seen. But half of it comes from my own belief in the things that I'm writing and my own sense of like, I think I really like the way I wrote that. I really like the way that was. And comes from my own self-esteem and my own sense of like, this is part of what makes me me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go in with my part of that, with my understanding of myself. And I'm like, does anyone else agree? Somebody else is like, I do. And I'm like, great, that's all I need. Thank you. And granted, I need it a lot, like we need it every time. That's the part I'm working on. But I don't need it from thousands and thousands of people. And I think with social media, we're learning to need a lot of likes and a lot of followers and a lot of validation. Is that different than needing it consistently? You know what I mean? Like, I think there's something in the consistency element versus the abundance. Like, and then it's like never enough. And it's like, that it became very clear to me on Substack. And I'm like, wow, I really care when one person comments. But on Instagram, I need so many to comment. And it's the learned part of that, of like what validation is and how much you need, and how when you get some, you need more. And I'm trying to keep it level. So I could just be like, not gonna put so many eggs in that basket. It's just a place to connect, even if it's just a couple of people who can say, yes, I see you, you're real. Like what you feel is real.
I was thinking, and the quality of it as well. So a like on Instagram compared to Substack, where they have taken the time to presumably like, read your whole essay as well. There's something about an investment in that over somebody watching a 30-second reel or just a couple of slides or something like that. For example, if your stuff comes up on Instagram, I'll always swipe through or always let it play through and I give you a like, regardless. That's not really very validating.
Regardless.
Exactly.
Even when I hate it.
No, because I'm not even thinking about whether I like it or not, unless it, pops up. But you're getting a like either way.
Yeah.
So that's quite a low quality validation.
Yeah.
It's support, but in terms of the validation for what you've done, compared to something like Substack, which, from my understanding, there's a whole different vibe to it, a whole different way of expressing yourself in a way that feels
meaningful.
Just away from like the energy of Instagram, if
it's
nothing
not
else.
Dopamine driven.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting angle, actually, to think about, because it doesn't matter what you're saying is true. But if you're on Instagram and you know that people just hit the like, that, I know that. But if you see the heart, it does something to you. It bypasses your logic and it hits your dopamine. And yes, is this related to validation?
What you're saying. But this is why you need more on Instagram, because it's like a like on Instagram is like 1 cent. So you need however many hundreds of them to kind of go like, okay, that's enough. Whereas a like on Substack is like $5.
Yeah.
Literally. But do you see what I mean? That's part of it. It's like, yes, it does still matter. It's not enough to just go, oh, it's just that, because that's why you need the accumulation of it to get the same. Or
I don't know. I think that you could continue to. I think on Instagram, you could continue to need more and more and more. I think there's something about what dopamine is doing. Are we mistaking validation for dopamine? Is that confused? Have we confused that in our culture? And I think maybe we're leaning that way. These superficial kind of hits, we're seeking more of them. They're not doing as much.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're needing more of it and more of it, more of it, because we're not actually getting, is that why you left? The podcast, like, get more substantial, what is more substantial to you, like enriching validation.
Mm. Well, this is where the word connection comes to mind for me, because that's what it's all about. It's like, how connected do I feel to the person offering the recognition, what I believe about their intent, like the sincerity, the level of it, all of that stuff. Like, it matters. We put a different level of importance on that. But I think for sure, you're right, because the dopamine system is being hijacked with Instagram. And if you think about when you first started on Instagram, if in 3 months on Instagram, you were getting what you're getting now, you'd have been thrilled to bits. So it is one of those things where the goalposts move. And we also know that each one of those likes or comments is somebody looking at what we're producing and recognizing it. Whether they are, having a go or whether they're supporting, there's that recognition that's in there. And so there's a moment of like, oh, I've been seen, someone likes that.
Yeah. So potentially, I think, is the antidote for validation connection.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
There we go.
More connection.
More connection.
More
This
higher
is
power.
what we need.
Not letting it go.
Well, I talk about the 3 points of connection. I think I've talked about it on the podcast before. Connection to self, connection to others, and connection to the world at large. And you can put connection to higher power in there as well. I don't like to push it in there for people, but I think for me, it's absolutely crucial to be able to do any of the stuff that I've done. Because do you know what my brain will do? It'll do this thing. And I appreciate that it is not this straightforward, but it will look at people in like relationships. You have a partner who's earning, and I'll be like, it'll be all right. You've got a partner that earns. You're still going to have your home. I think, but me, like, I'm the sole breadwinner here. I'll lose my home. My cats will be on the streets. They're indoor cats. They're not going to survive on the streets. Have you seen them?
Not in person, but
that's true. So there's what is the point that I'm trying to make? Without that trust in something else, it's like it's only me. It's only me, and that is way too frightening. I need something, someone else, some other higher power by my side. Otherwise, I couldn't leave the house.
I feel the opposite. I feel like I have too many people depending on me, and there's too many people to disappoint. If it was just me, it would be so much easier.
Isn't this funny?
Yeah.
So true.
Like, I feel like I'd be freer to fail.
Oh, that's interesting. But there's no one to catch me.
Well, I'm assuming I'm not even caught anyway. So it's just that I'd rather just be responsible for myself.
Well, I think we got to the point where the seeking for external validation is a call for connection, because none of us exist in a vacuum. This idea of a solid sense of self kind of suggests that, well, if myself is completely solid, I don't need anybody else. And actually, we are social, interconnected.
Yes, right.
People that maybe we are always going to have like.
What?
I was just saying, we're always going to have holes somewhere that need plugging. Just
we are.
That we need other people to fill our holes.
We do.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Yes. I think that how of that part it's really difficult. Like, how do I connect if I don't feel like I have enough connection in my life? Maybe easier to seek out the validation through these other means because it's easy. Yeah. It appears to be easier.
That reminds me of something that I think I wanted to say I said it in therapy, but I think I might have said it on the podcast, like right near the beginning, like years ago, where the difference between chasing admiration and love, and how I'd always had this frame that, do you know what, I would rather chase admiration because it doesn't pretend to be deeper than that, than just the admiration for the thing. Whereas love purports to be X, Y, Z, but 99% of the time it's not unconditional.
Yeah.
Most love is conditional.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
My only experience of unconditional love was from my mother. You know, that is the felt embodied experience of unconditional love that I haven't had anywhere else. Always feels like there's a line, like there's an edge. And so there's shit like there's boundaries and protection, and it's the same vice versa. This is
Yeah.
just so for me, there was something so disappointing in the idea of chasing love and genuine connection because there was a cynicism in me about that, which I don't carry in the same way at all now. I don't feel connected to that idea when I talk about it now, but that's definitely been me in the past. I'm like, I would rather chase admiration,
Yeah.
not because I think it's a substitute for love. I know it's not, but let's just like see it for what it is. It's not
Yeah.
fake. It's
Right.
just this
Well,
thing.
it's also more reliable. It's like if you get admiration, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Well, you could
It's
lose
not
it
making
too,
any
but
promises to
yeah.
you.
Yeah, you're not going to start trusting it only to be
Yeah.
abandoned.
Yeah.
That's
Well, you
not
might,
true either,
but that
though.
wasn't. Yeah, I know. You might.
But at least you know going in. Like,
Yeah,
that's really what
exactly.
it's not, doesn't take you by, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's harder to be abandoned as well because it's so surface level. It doesn't feel as personal, even if it's withdrawn in the way that love,
Yeah.
if love is withdrawn, oh,
Oof. Yeesh.
right?
Yeah. We didn't talk about how to cultivate a stronger sense of self-worth that isn't reliant on others.
Well, for me, there's actually a more of a need to admit to the interdependency of other people because I've been hyper independent for a long time. But this again is and I know you did touch on like the really early attachment stuff, unless that was last episode. I can't remember.
No, that was this.
Yeah, okay. The really early attachment stuff. There's a whole individuation process that happens as we're growing up. It starts off like as toddlers exploring the world, being able to come back to a safe place, you know, going through the socialization with peers and at school, and then the teenage years being able to differentiate and individuate when that process gets mucked about with. That also affects it. I mean, that's not really providing an answer of how to fix it. It's just stating.
Well, I think, I think the self-worth comes from connection. I think it does.
Well, we need to be able to internalize those positive connections because right, ideally we internalize the positive attachment.
Yes, that was something. So we're more likely to internalize criticism because our brains scan for threat. We're less likely to internalize validation. Yep. And there's two reasons why. And I read about this recently, and I remember one of the reasons is because unless we're intentionally coding it on purpose, like we're not coding it. So we have to be intentional, which is a lot about what somatic work is trying to do. But there was another reason, and it was like, you won't code something if you can't feel it in the first place, like if it can't land in the first place. But there was more.
You need to believe it at the embodied level. Your body needs to believe it to be able to encode it. Otherwise, it's just another
intellectualized
exercise.
Yeah. So, I mean, my take home practical tool for that is that when you are validated or you feel connected, somebody is connecting to you, that's where I'm trying to go in the body and not the buzz, not the part that's like, oh, yeah, somebody admires, it's not that part. It's like, what part of me feels safer here? And it's a little bit also coming out of self and thinking about the way I connect in this world, the way that we are all connected. There's something about that feeling, not just the thought of it, but the way it feels. And if you don't resonate with the sensation necessarily, even just the energy of that, and say, I'm trying to code this. I want to hold on to the fact that I know this exists and that this happens to me sometimes. This is real. And that alone just can be a way of being more intentional about that coding, which otherwise might not be happening.
Yeah. No, I agree. I gotta want to as well. There's resistance there sometimes of letting that stuff in. There's a part that pushes back.
That's what it was, Sarah. No. That's what it was. It was that if you're discounting it, you won't code it. So you're not actually receiving anything. Yeah. And that's why you keep needing it, because you keep getting it. And then you're like, no, I don't want it. Like, but give me more.
Yeah. Or maybe it's not even I don't want it. It's just like, this feels too weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not true anyway.
Or the ick. People can feel disgust as well if they're given compliments or validation or any of that. But I also think another indicator if you are overly reliant on external validation is that you'll be very sensitive to criticism. Yeah.
Which is what we talked about last time.
Yeah.
So these two go together.
Nicely, yeah.
Well done.
Right back at you.
Okay. I'll take that in.
Let's just sit in and just take in our magnificence right now. Join us, dear listener. Just let it in. You are magnificent. Steph's lost it. You can't even hear her. She's laughing. Do you think that's so funny that our listeners could be magnificent?
I don't know what. I just cry in the podcast now.
We have to cry at least every other episode. Come on.
Okay.
Okay.
Take from that what you will.
Yeah, as usual. And we'll see you next
See you
month.
again. Bye.
Bye.